You know how sometimes you just get that itch, the one that says, go explore something new, but you also kind of want to learn something too.
Yeah, definitely. That mix of discovery and, well, finding out cool stuff.
Exactly. And that's pretty much what we're diving into today. We're headed, virtually at least, to the St. John's University Abbey Arboretum.
Ah, St. John's. Great spot.
Thinking scenic trails, a bit of history, kind of peeking around every corner. You know, the perfect place for an outing that feeds both your curiosity and, well, gets your legs moving.
Absolutely. And to guide our exploration, we've gathered quite a mix of sources. Should give us a good picture.
Oh, yeah. What do we got?
Well, there's a thoughtful piece from the Collegeville Institute, some insights from the Episcopal House of Prayer, which is right there. Then the crucial trail map from the Arboretum itself.
You gotta have the map.
Right. Plus info straight from the Arboretum's own website, and even a local news report from WJON. So, a good spread.
Okay, cool. So our mission today is pretty simple, really, but hopefully it'll spark some adventure. We want to give everyone a taste of what the St. John's University Chapel hike is all about.
Yeah, the story behind it, the highlights, maybe some interesting facts.
Exactly. Stuff that might just make you want to lace up your boots and, you know, go see it yourself. Okay, so first things first. Where exactly are we talking about? Minnesota, right?
That's right. Collegeville, Minnesota. It's the site of St. John's Abbey and University. And the Arboretum itself, it's big. Over 2,830 acres.
Wow, that's substantial.
It is. And what's really interesting, geologically speaking, is the area sits on what they call terminal moraines.
Terminal moraines. Okay, refresh my memory. Glaciers, right.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, piles of rock and dirt left behind when the glacier stopped advancing. It makes for a really distinctive landscape in central Minnesota, kind of like a fingerprint the glaciers left.
Huh. That's the kind of detail that makes you look at the ground differently, doesn't it? Knowing there's this deep history just there. So what kind of scenery does this glacial legacy actually create? What would someone see walking around?
Well, you get a really impressive mix of native plant communities all sort of packed together. Imagine walking through, like, classic oak and maple basswood forests. Then maybe you dip into wetter areas like tamarack and mixed hardwood swamps. And then, boom, you're in these open, sunny, wet meadows.
So a lot of variety in a relatively small area.
A real mosaic, yeah. And it's interesting, while the monks have been there forever, basically the land was only formally designated as a natural arboretum back in 1997.
Oh, okay. So that designation was like a formal nod to its importance.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Highlighting a conscious decision, to really focus on preserving that natural richness.
Which, given their history there, feels like it builds on something already established. You mentioned the monks. They arrived way back, 1856.
Yeah, 1856.
Yeah.
A long, long time. And their role has been, well, fundamental. Since day one, pretty much. The Benedictine monks have had this deep value of environmental stewardship.
Stewardship. Taking care of the land.
Exactly. Not just living on it, but actively caring for it, preserving, sustaining, even improving it. That commitment is just woven into the place. You can almost feel it when you're there.
Okay, so we've got this incredible natural setting, this history of care. Now let's talk about this chapel walk mentioned in the Collegeville Institute article. What's the deal with that trail?
Right. The article highlights this specific walk. The author mentions setting out to reach a chapel overlooking Lake Sagatagan.
Lake Sagatagan, got it.
And there's even this specific expectation of finding a statue of Mary, pregnant teenager, along the path. It sets a certain scene, but...
Which, as often happens when you're actually exploring, didn't quite pan out that way.
Exactly. Surprised. The first big statue they actually encountered wasn't Mary at all. It was St. Kateri Tekakwitha.
Oh, St. Kateri. Okay. How is she depicted?
The article gives a pretty vivid description. Calls her lanky, mentions a dog at her feet, moccasins, braids, and the inscription Mohawk on the base.
So a very different figure than expected.
Very different. And that immediately brings up some interesting thoughts, doesn't it? Especially given the institution's own history.
Yeah, the author picked up on that, right? The connection, or maybe disconnection.
They did. The author, being of German background, was aware that the German founders had effectively, displaced the indigenous people who originally lived there.
Right.
So seeing the statue prompted this observation about, well, they called it ironic tension and awkward multiculturalism.
That's quite a reflection. It really makes you think about the layers of history in one spot.
Absolutely. It's something for visitors to potentially ponder. What stories are being told here and by whom? It shows how a walk in nature can also be a walk through some complex history.
Definitely not always straightforward. So after St. Kateri, what else did the author see on the way to the chapel? Did they keep going?
Oh yeah, the walk continued. They crossed a bridge, saw a fisherman. The article mentions lots of yellow blossoms near the lake, presumably Lake Sagatagan.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, lily pads too. And there was this cool moment seeing a really vibrant turtle in the underbrush. Orange and yellow markings.
Nice. Those little flashes of color in the woods are always memorable. And did they eventually find the chapel they were looking for?
They did, yeah. They reached Mary's Chapel, described as pink stone with a blue door. Kind of gives it an innocent feel, the author thought.
Pink stone, blue door. Huh.
And interestingly, the author, identifying as Protestant, mentioned saying a quiet Catholic prayer inside. A little moment of, I guess, cross-cultural connection there.
So this chapel walk sounds like a mini version of the whole Arboretum experience, nature, history, maybe some personal reflection too.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's zoom out again. The Abbey's been there since the 1850s, but the Arboretum designation was 1997. How does the Arboretum function today, like with outreach and stuff?
Well, the WJON news report we looked at features Sarah Gainey. She's the Assistant Director of Environmental Education Coordinator, and she's involved with the St. John's Outdoor University program. They do a lot of the public-facing education about the Arboretum.
And it sounds like a lot of people engage with that.
Huge numbers, actually.
Yeah.
Sarah Gainey mentioned Outdoor U interacts with over 20,000 visitors a year. But she also pointed out probably many more just come to walk the trails on their own, you know.
Sure, just enjoying the space, which implies there must be plenty of trails to explore.
Oh, definitely. Over 20 miles of trails across the Arboretum. Really diverse, scenic routes.
20 miles?
Yeah. We talked about the different landscapes, hardwood forests, prairies, wetlands. The trail map shows the Chapel Trail itself is around 3 miles. But there are others too, like Lake Hillary Trail, Pine Knob Trail. Different lengths, different scenery. Something for everyone, really.
And it's not just nature, right? The report mentioned monuments too.
That's right. Array's monuments and markers are scattered around, hinting at the human history mixed in with the nature.
Makes sense.
And for folks who want to dig deeper, that WJON report mentioned a book, The Nature of St. John's, a guide to the landscape and spirituality of St. John's Abbey Arboretum. Sounds like the perfect guide for uncovering all those layers.
Good resource. Okay, so now I'm thinking this sounds great. I want to go. What are the practicalities? It is private land.
Super important point.
Yeah.
Yes, it's private, owned by the Abbey and University, but they generously welcome the public as guests. There are, however, some key guidelines to protect the place.
Like what? What do visitors need to know?
Okay, well, bikes are allowed, but only on the paved surfaces, not on the hiking trails.
Good to know. What about dogs?
Yeah. Generally, no pets allowed. The exception is for trained service animals. So, gotta leave the furry buddies at home, unfortunately.
Okay. Other big ones?
Let's see. Stay on marked trails, mostly. No driving off paved areas without permission. No open fires or camping unless you get specific authorization.
Standard stuff for preserving nature.
Exactly. And definitely no building forts or anything like that. And crucially, no gathering or harvesting plants, animals, fungi, rocks, anything. Leave everything as you find it.
Makes sense. Protect the ecosystem.
Right. Also, no motorized boats on the water, swimming's only at the designated beach, and no firearms. It's all on their website, really clearly laid out.
So it sounds like pretty reasonable rules, all about respect for the land. What can you do? What's encouraged?
Lots. Walking, running, definitely. In winter, cross-country skiing and snowshoeing are big. You can do that on and off trails, just not in the monks' private gardens.
Okay.
Non-motorized boats like canoes or kayaks are fine on the lakes. Fishing, too, from shore or a non-motorized boat. Just need your Minnesota fishing license.
Standard fishing rules.
Yep. And of course, just observing nature, studying it, taking photos, absolutely encouraged. Plenty to see.
Now, beyond the nature and history, there's this other dimension too, isn't there? A spiritual one. We mentioned the chapel, but there's also the Episcopal House of Prayer on the grounds.
Yes, exactly. They have a retreat house right there at St. John's. There are materials mentioned. It has, I think, 12 guest rooms and a small chapel. The oratory specifically for contemplative prayer.
So you could actually combine a hike with some quiet time or reflection?
Definitely suggest that possibility. It seems like a place designed to support that kind of deeper connection or spiritual practice alongside enjoying the outdoors.
What's the main goal of the Episcopal House of Prayer being there?
Well, their stated mission is about helping people discern God's presence, offering guidance, teaching contemplative prayer, and supporting spiritual growth. Their vision talks about being a ministry of spiritual transformation, grounded in Christian tradition, but also that Benedictine hospitality. and they really emphasize welcoming everyone.
So that chapel walk we talked about, it could be more than just getting from A to B.
Precisely. The House of Prayer folks even use the term contemplative walk, encouraging mindfulness, really paying attention to your surroundings as a practice in itself.
That ties back nicely to the Arboretum's own purpose, doesn't it?
It really does. It reinforces that idea of the Arboretum being a place for spiritual renewal, which is explicitly part of its mission.
Let's just quickly revisit that overall mission and vision, just to bring it all together. What's the Arboretum fundamentally about?
Okay, so the mission is basically preserve the native plants and animals, provide education and research opportunities, model sustainable land use, and crucially offer that natural environment for spiritual renewal.
Preserve, educate, model, renew.
Got it. And the vision is about celebrating the beauty of creation there in central Minnesota and fostering those Benedictine traditions, stewardship, education, environmental respect. It all connects.
Okay. So putting it all together, a visit to St. John's, especially maybe doing that chapel hike, sounds like a really rich experience.
I think so.
You get the scenic beauty, the history with the statues, the Abbey context, those diverse landscapes over miles of trails, plus the chance for both, getting some exercise and maybe some quiet reflection.
It really seems to offer that combination. And it's worth saying again, they welcome visitors as guests, which is great. Just got to follow the guidelines to help keep it special.
Right. Respect the place so it stays amazing.
Exactly. By being considerate, we all help ensure it thrives for future visitors too.
So yeah, definitely consider putting St. John's University Abbey Arboretum on your list. If you're looking for that kind of outing, go check out the Chapel Walk, see St. Kateri, Lake Sagatagan. Maybe you'll even spot that turtle.
You never know.
And as you walk, maybe take a moment. Think about that long Benedictine stewardship, the different layers of history you're literally walking through. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Considering that deep link between history, culture, the environment right there. What can a walk like that teach us about our own connection to the past and the world around us?
A good question to carry with you.
Something to ponder on your next adventure. Thanks for exploring this with us today.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.